So Jayber has always been a character I was interested in, since whenever I saw people using him, the turrets always seemed cool, and I just figured that, kinda like Kyle and SMO, he was probably just super underrated, and no one had talked about him yet to bring his true appeal to light. And 12 catalysts and a whole lot of testing later, I can resolutely say that I was wrong. And Jayber fucking sucks. Don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna give you guys some builds for him, so that way the single Jayber main out there who watches my videos can stop asking me to cover him. But before I get into these builds, let's talk about Jayber and how he works on a fundamental level from ability to ability, and outline what they do, what quirks or bugs they have, and why they suck. Jayber's first ability is Assault Turret, and this is going to be the meat of his damage. The ability simply lets you throw down a turret. The turret can't move, but it can hit from pretty far away. The turret will inherit stats based on your own personal character's stats at the time you place the turret down, and that does mean that it snapshots. So say you have Peacemaker, which gives you non-attribute power ratio for each stack that you have. If you have all 5 stacks when placing a turret, then even if the buff expires, so long as the turret is still alive, the turret will keep all 5 stacks infinitely, which is pretty cool. That said, the turret cannot benefit from dangerous ambush, ever. It doesn't matter if the target is downed or not targeting you or the turrets. This mod will never give a bonus to turret damage, which is likely because of the snapshot being done and applied to a new entity, the turret, instead of yourself. You'll note that the turret says it will inherit 75.5% of your skill power modifier when you summon it. I've seen quite a bit of confusion on what that actually means, but basically take it to mean that before your skill power modifiers even come into play, you simply multiply your total skill power by 0.755 to apply that percentage. So in essence, yeah, your turrets lose about 25% of your skill power, and that hurts. Moving on though, the turret primary fire is kind of alright. It shoots every 0.6 seconds, and it can only hit one target, but again from pretty damn far away. The much cooler part of turrets though, is if you activate their turret zone via the 2 different ways you can do that with your third skill, then the turret will generate an AoE ring that deals damage every 0.3 seconds, separate from the primary fire, hitting all targets within reach and very, very quickly. There are some major issues with this ability, but we'll talk about them after all the rest are explained. The second ability is called Medical Turret, where instead of dealing damage with its primary fire, it heals nearby allies, including yourself. Though funnily enough, this healing does not count for Passionate Sponsor. It works the exact same way in how it inherits stats from you, just with different modifiers. The major difference though, is when you activate a Medical Turret's turret zone, instead of dealing damage in an AoE, it will instead taunt enemies with the AoE, which has some major flaws, which we'll talk about soon. Both turret abilities have Transcendent mods, Attack Compulsion and Medical Compulsion, that convert the other turret to be a second of the other. So you can have 2 assault turrets with no medical turrets, or 2 medical turrets with no assault turrets. Having 2 assault turrets makes sense, because that's obviously more damage. Having 2 medical turrets is kinda troll though, but I guess the option is there for support fetishists that don't know Eugen exists yet. Jayber's third ability is Multi-Purpose Gun, and this is a unique weapon. It scales its magazine size based on your equipped weapons round per magazine bonuses, just like Haley's Zenith, Freyna's Baptism, and while you can do damage to enemies with it, the main use is the ability to, when shooting a friendly turret, heal the turret, activate its turret zone, and then extend the duration of the turret's placement. And you can extend a turret's timer well over 5 minutes, probably infinitely if you're crazy enough. Also, a quick note, the cooldown says 15 seconds per bullet, which makes it sound like the bullets will return to the magazine if you wait long enough, but that is not what this means. It's saying that if you shoot all your bullets, you'll have a 15-second cooldown, but for every bullet saved when you cancel this skill, those unshot bullets act as a proportionate percent cooldown reduction to shorten the base cooldown time. Also, the tooltip claims that the 15 seconds isn't modified by cooldown reduction, but it absolutely is. Again though, there are numerous issues with this ability, which we will talk about in a moment. The ability also has a Transcendent mod called Turret Engineering, which removes the use of a unique weapon, but makes it so without even having to shoot them, your turrets will be healed and their turret zones will be activated. This can be more convenient sometimes, but in others it can impede you, where the gun would have been much better, since the gun has a much shorter cooldown. Jayber's last ability is Reactivate, where it forces your turrets to halt what they're doing, shoot out 3 little baby projectiles that somehow deal less damage than Lepic's grenade throws, and then it kills your turrets. In exchange, it gives you a buff called Overhaul that makes it so while you have Overhaul active, turrets are placed with their turret zone up immediately without you needing to shoot them. This is easily the worst ability of his entire kit. Please do not use it. You are better off leaving your turrets alive and just letting them shoot more, because in the time it will take you to make them commit suicide, they will have done more damage than what this skill would do. It is Genuine shit. It has an equally terrible but slightly better version with its Transcendant mod that makes it so the turrets leave a lightning AoE when they explode, but that's still doing piss for you. Lastly, Jayber's passive is Turret Sync, and this one is actually pretty cool. While you have 2 turrets active, you get an increase to your firearm attack percent bucket, which is not that crazy, but you also get a 20% increase to skill power, and this is not base skill power ratio, this is the optimization condition, so it's giving you the same bonus as your reactor weapon condition or a secret garden, so just for having 2 turrets active, you almost get a full secret garden buff, and that is pretty hot. Moving on to things that are not so hot though. Let's talk about some of his major fucking issues, because he's got a few. Obviously his 4th ability is virtually unusable. That thing needs to be given an ungodly amount of base power modifier, because tickling the enemy with less damage than a Lepic grenade throw at the cost of your turret's lives feels pretty fucking bad. But I've already mentioned that earlier, so I'll just leave it at that. Another major issue is that your 3rd ability, when you shoot or reactivate turrets for their turret zone, you can absolutely increase the duration of the turret itself with its primary fire, but the turret zone cannot be extended, nor can it even be refreshed. Why is that annoying? Let's say you're out and about and you notice your turret zone is about to end, so you pull out your gun and shoot the turret, only you notice the turret zone, which is the purple diamond fill in the background, didn't refresh, and now you've just wasted a bullet, and your turret gained nothing, and then your turret zone will still end when you needed it to stay up. They let you waste bullets, and this still applies if you take the augment that removes the gun. Because of this, in some cases, building for duration just to extend the turret zone can bite you on the ass, because when you go to refresh it, the zone still had 0.0001 seconds left, and so it just eats your bullet or ability cast without refreshing. This is obviously a gripe I have when trying to use Jayber in a stationary type farm, like the Vespers XP farm, to level him or my weapons, because he is actually really good for soloing that very quickly. But it's painful to keep up on the turret maintenance, because you're constantly refreshing your turret zone every 10 seconds, when your turret itself is going to last like 8 or 9 minutes, and there's such a disparity there that I pray to God they fix that. The next issue is that even if you build into using him for stationary activities, he still sucks, and we will go over a few examples. Colossus boss fights. Yes, you can use him if you want to bully something as weak as hard mode Devourer, but so can literally anyone in this game. I could take the weapon adjustment console in Albion and throw it at Devourer and still kill him. It is not an accomplishment. Any other fight is going to look like this though, because most Colossi are designed to put between 25 and 30 meters of distance between the character and themselves, which is why if you're standing still, they move away from their target and then kind of circle them. Because of that, they'll aggro your turrets and just move the fuck away, well outside the range of your turret zones. And the only real fights where your turrets are ever going to have the range to hit the target are Devourer, as mentioned before, simply because he has super long animations and just sits there for 30 years, or Molten Fortress, and that's because Molten literally moves at the speed of a dying turtle and he is massive, so it doesn't matter where he goes, your turrets are still going to be able to hit him. At that point, why even try and make him work there? Bunny is more effective in boss fights than this guy, and quite literally any aspect of the game he is good at, someone else is better at, and can do more than him in general. For dungeon clearing, he's going to be 3 tile sets behind, deactivating his turrets while Freyna and Bunny just run past with everything dead. You can try and convince yourself that Medical Turret is more helpful, but when Eugen exists and can somehow do more damage than Jayber while also healing better, you have to wonder why Jayber even exists. When it comes to stationary activities, Jayber is still going to fall behind people like Bunny, Freyna, Vyessa, Esmo, Lepic, so on. He's outclassed in dungeons, he's outclassed in farms, he's outclassed in boss fights. Jayber just isn't it, guys. He's designed around activities that we don't even have in the game yet, that are probably in Warframe, but we don't have those activities in this game right now. So he's just stuck here without a niche. He has nothing to do, and God, it shows. I want my 12 catalysts back. To wrap things up, though, let's give you 2 builds, starting with the boss build. For survivability, for your turret and yourself, you're running Increase HP and Battle of Stamina, along with Iron Defense. For duration, since in a boss fight we want our turret zone to last as long as possible, we're running Skill Extension, Maximize Duration, and then Battle of Stamina ties in again earlier with a hair more duration. And in terms of damage, for skill power ratios, we're running the Slayer set. We have 5 stacks from Peacemaker, along with Maximize Skill and Non-Attribute Amplification. We do not run Ambush here, and if you don't know why, you weren't even listening earlier when we addressed that specifically. Further boosting our damage with Skill Power Modifier, we're using Maximize Power, Dimension Amplification, and Iron Defense from earlier again, tying in with a little bit more modifier. The turrets do piss all on their base modifier, which is why for once, Iron Defense beats out Spear and Shield. Lastly, we are using Skill Expansion to give us a little bit more range and bring us right under the turret range cap of 200%. You need this mod on, or good fucking luck having your turrets hit anything in a a boss fight. Some of you might be questioning how the hell I'm supposed to get all 5 Peacemaker stacks when I'm using 2 mods that in total double my cooldown lengths. So in theory, it should be impossible to place and replace all the turrets needed in order to proc Peacemaker fast enough to get all 5 stacks. Well, kinda like multipurpose gun, the turrets themselves give proportionate cooldown refunds if you didn't wait too long to cancel them, which means that so long as you cancel a turret immediately after placing it, you get it back and reset the cooldown instantly, meaning I can pretty much instantly get all my Peacemaker stacks up. That gun is ridiculously good on him. It's just free skill damage, there's no reason not to use it, and for those not aware, it's just a gun that makes it so whenever you're using a Dimension or Fusion skill, and both of your turrets are Dimension skills, you get a stack for 15 seconds, and unlike Secret Garden, you are guaranteed to get this stack on use, and at the max stacks of 5 total, you're getting 43% non-attribute power ratio, which is quite a lot. For reactors, you obviously want a non-attribute Dimension reactor. Colossus attack is even more important than it already was. For a secondary role after Colossus, just take whatever is usable. It's not a huge deal. Components need to be the Slayer set. No surprise there. And the substats don't really matter at all, other than taking HP or defense rolls for the sake of the turret's survivability. Having MP rolls on your sensor will make life a lot easier when you're spamming turret placements in order to get your Peacemaker stacks. There really isn't much else you can do to improve this guy. For the general mobbing build as well as the solo Vespers farm, this is what we're running. We actually care about cooldown here since we want to be able to refresh our gun as often as we possibly can. And if you're doing dungeons instead of the Vespers farm, you want your turrets off cooldown as quickly as you can get them, because more often than not, you're going to place a turret, it'll end up on cooldown because you watched it shoot one enemy before the room exploded, and then you have to replace your turret in the next room over. I cannot recommend Jayber for dungeons. It is a miserable experience, but holy shit is he great for leveling weapons solo on the Vespers farm. Now, of course, that I have brought attention to his many flaws. They will probably announce changes to him 24 hours before the next patch, and I'll have to remake this video, just like they did with Kyle and Essimo. But I pray to God that does not happen, because unlike Kyle and Essimo, he is not fun. And unless he gets an extreme rework, I never want to touch this guy again.